All right, so get ready for this one. You sent in some pretty wild theories about ancient Sumerians,
Yeah.
hidden codes and advanced knowledge, and even the idea that we might be living in some kind of Earth-sized escape room.
Yes, it's really quite a collection of ideas. The thing I find so intriguing is how these sources try to connect all these seemingly unrelated things like ancient cultures, math, and even like human consciousness itself.
Okay, so walk me through this a little bit.
Yeah.
The sources claim that the ancient Sumerians had this advanced knowledge, maybe even from extraterrestrials.
Right.
And that knowledge is like baked into how we measure time geometry, even our existence.
That's the basic gist of it, yeah. And a key part of this hidden knowledge, they say, is the number 60.
60.
60. Now, you might be thinking 60, what's so special about it? But think about it, 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour, 360 degrees in a circle. It's like everywhere.
Huh, it's true. I never really thought about 60 being so prevalent. But how does this connect to the Sumerians?
Well, the sources suggest that this whole base 60 system we use stems from the Sumerian counting system. They used a pretty clever method based on the segments of their fingers.
Like using each finger segment as a unit.
Exactly. They had 12 segments on 4 fingers, so they could count to 12. Then they'd use their other hand to keep track of those sets of 12. 5 sets of 12, boom, you get 60.
Wow, that's pretty ingenious. So this ancient way of counting, which led to this whole base 60 system, it's still influencing us today.
Oh, it really is. Think about it. We still have 12 hours on a clock, a dozen eggs, 12 inches in a foot. All these echoes of that Sumerian system, it's woven into our lives.
Okay, that's fascinating. But the sources, they claim that the Sumerians were more than just clever mathematicians, right? They were like this incredibly advanced civilization that just kind of appeared out of nowhere around 6,000 years ago.
Right. That's right. They built multi-story buildings, pyramids, sailboats. They developed a written language. They invented the wheel. I mean, they were light years ahead of their time, technologically speaking. And what's really interesting is that the Sumerians themselves claim this knowledge came from tall beings who came from the sky.
Wait, so we're talking like ancient astronauts here, but how does that tie into the number 60 and the counting system, all that stuff?
Well, that's the mystery these sources are trying to unravel. They point to things like the Earth's wobble, which has a 25,920-year cycle. Now, when you start dividing that number by these key numbers in the Sumerian counting system, something interesting happens.
What happened?
You start to see geometric shapes emerge.
Yeah.
Cubes, octagons, hexagons, pentagons. It's all encoded within the Earth's wobble and the Sumerian numerical system.
So we're talking about sacred geometry now. That's more of a mystical concept, right?
Yeah, it's often associated with mysticism, but it also has roots in mathematics and geometry. The sources highlight that sacred geometry. It's not just about circles, it's about 60-degree arcs. That same 60 we keep encountering. This connects to the work of Buckminster Fuller, an architect and futurist who developed something called synergetics, which explores the geometry of energy and interconnectedness. He believed that a specific geometric shape, the vector equilibrium, was crucial to understanding the structure of the universe.
And this vector equilibrium, it's based on 60-degree angles.
You got it.
It's like we're uncovering some kind of hidden code, layer by layer. But where does this idea of a harmonic universe fit into all of this?
Ooh, that's where things get even more interesting. The sources propose that we live in this harmonic universe with geometry as like its underlying structure. Think about music. Certain tones, they create this resonance that we perceive as beautiful, writes. Correct. These harmonic ratios, you can find them in the Fibonacci spiral, this shape found throughout nature.
Hold on, the Fibonacci spiral, that's the one where each number is the sum of the two preceding ones, right? Like 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8.
Exactly. It's a fascinating sequence, and the sources argue that it reveals this harmonically perfect triad. And get this, they even link this harmonic concept to the lifespans of the first 3 Sumerian kings. According to the Sumerian king list, they lived for 288, 360, and 432 years.
Whoa, that's incredibly long. But 288, 360, 432, those numbers seem kind of familiar, like they relate to the 60 we were just discussing.
They do, don't they? It's as if those early Sumerian kings were living on a different timescale, one more attuned to the harmonic structure of the universe. But what's even more interesting is what the sources propose about how we might tap into this harmonic universe.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
They suggest it might be through a part of our brain that's often considered pretty mysterious, the pineal gland.
The pineal gland. I've heard of it, but I don't really know much about it.
It's this tiny pine cone-shaped gland located deep within the brain. And it's been depicted as a pine cone in art throughout history, from ancient Sumerian and Egyptian art to Greek and Roman sculptures.
So this little gland has been a symbol for something important for a very long time.
Yes, and the sources suggest that the pineal gland, it might act as an antenna for receiving information from the universe. It's a bold claim for sure, and one that ties into the concept of consciousness and even like a form of awakening, often symbolized by the lotus flower.
Okay, I'm trying to follow here. We've gone from ancient counting systems to a potential cosmic antenna in our brains. Is this all building towards this escape room theory that the sources mention?
It certainly seems so. The sources propose that we might be living in this giant Earth-sized escape room, and the clues to escaping are encoded in these ancient systems of knowledge.
So if we can understand and unlock these clues, we unlock our true nature and our understanding of reality.
That's the idea.
But what does that even mean?
That's a question we'll have to explore further. And it leads to another really tantalizing idea, that the sources hint at the possibility that our reality might be holographic, but that, my friend, is a deep dive for another time.
My mind is officially blown. We went from ancient counting to a potential holographic reality in what, like 20 minutes?
Time flies when you're exploring the secrets of the universe.
So where do we go from here? We've covered so much ground, but I feel like we're just scratching the surface.
We are, and that's what makes it so exciting. If we really are living in this escape room like the sources suggest, then the clues, they're all around us. The question is, what are we looking for?
What symbols? What patterns? What synchronicities might hold the key to unlocking the next level of this cosmic game?
That's a question I'll leave you, dear listener, to ponder for a moment. What do you think?
This is a lot to take in. We'll be back soon to continue our deep dive into the mysteries of the Earth-sized escape room. Welcome back. I don't know about you, but that last segment really got me thinking. We've been diving deep into this whole idea that we might be living in an Earth-sized escape room.
Yeah, a concept that really stretches the imagination.
Totally. We were talking about ancient Sumerians and a base 60 counting system and the Earth's wobble sacred geometry, a harmonic universe. Even the pineal gland is like a cosmic antenna.
Right, a lot of seemingly unrelated ideas.
It's wild. But before we went to break, we were talking about the pineal gland and its potential to receive information from the universe. That's a fascinating concept, but is there any actual scientific evidence to support that?
Well, that's a good question. From a mainstream scientific perspective, the pineal gland's main function is to produce melatonin, the hormone that regulates our sleep cycles. But there is a growing body of research looking into its potential role in consciousness and even things like ESP.
ESP, like extrasensory perception.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where the connection to ancient cultures gets even more interesting. The sources you sent, they point out that the pine cone, which represents the pineal gland, appears in art and architecture across all these different civilizations.
Yeah.
You see it with the Sumerians, the Egyptians, the Greeks, the Romans. It's almost like a universal symbol.
It does make you wonder if those ancient civilizations knew something about the pineal gland that we're only now starting to rediscover.
It's a thought-provoking idea, for sure. And it kind of ties back into this whole theory that we've been left these clues encoded in symbols, myths, even our systems of measurement that point to a deeper understanding of reality.
Okay, so the escape room theory, it rests on the idea that these clues are scattered throughout history, just waiting for us to piece them together.
Right.
But if that's the case, what are we actually trying to escape from?
That's the big question, isn't it? And the sources you sent, they don't give us a clear-cut answer, but they hint at the possibility that we might be trapped in this limited perception of reality. Remember when we talked about the holographic universe theory earlier?
Yeah, the idea that our reality is just a projection of something more fundamental, like in the movie The Matrix.
Exactly. And if that's true, then maybe the goal of this escape room is to break free from that limited perception and experience reality in its full potential.
Okay, so I'm trying to grasp this. If we are living in a holographic reality, how can we even prove that? Or disprove it, for that matter?
Yeah, that's where the sources kind of leave us with more questions than answers. They do suggest that paying close attention to the clues, like the symbols, the patterns, even those weird coincidences we call synchronicities, could be a good starting point.
So we need to become like cosmic detectives, searching for hidden messages in the fabric of reality. But how do we know which clues are actually important and which ones are just random noise?
Well, that's the challenge, right? The sources, they encourage us to question everything, to challenge our assumptions about reality and our place in it.
Yeah.
It's about cultivating a sense of curiosity and an open mind.
So it's like we're being asked to wake up from a collective dream to see the world with fresh eyes.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And maybe the pineal gland, with its potential to connect us to something beyond our everyday perception, could be a key part of that awakening.
Okay, so to solve this escape room, we need to unlock the power of the pineal gland. But how do we even do that?
Well, the sources, they offer a few suggestions, some more practical than others. They talk about things like meditation, spending time in nature, even certain frequencies of sound and light that might stimulate the pineal gland.
So it's not just about thinking our way out of this escape room, it's about experiencing our way out.
Yeah, exactly. The sources seem to really emphasize that the journey is just as important as the destination. It's about expanding our consciousness, opening ourselves to new possibilities, and exploring the vast mystery of our own existence.
Wow, I'm starting to feel a bit overwhelmed, to be honest. It's like every time we peel back a layer of this mystery, we just uncover even more questions.
Huh. That's the nature of a good mystery, isn't it? It keeps you engaged. It keeps you seeking. And who knows, maybe the journey of searching for those answers, that's what ultimately leads us to the truth, even if it's not the truth we are expecting.
Yeah, that's a good point. This has been such a thought-provoking conversation so far, but I think we need to take a little break.
Yeah, let's do that. We'll be right back to wrap up our deep dive into the mysteries of the Earth-sized escape room.
Welcome back to the show. We've been on quite a journey today, exploring this wild theory that we're all living in some kind of giant Earth-sized escape room.
Yeah, a theory that really pushes the boundaries of our imagination.
For sure. We talked about ancient Sumerians, a base 60 counting system, the Earth's wobble, sacred geometry, a harmonic universe, even the pineal gland as a potential cosmic antenna.
Right, and how these seemingly separate things might actually be connected.
Exactly, pointing to like this whole deeper truth about our existence and everything.
Yeah.
But if this is an escape room, what are we actually trying to escape from?
That is the big question. And like you said, the sources don't really give us a clear answer, but they do offer some interesting possibilities. One idea is that we're trapped in like a limited perception of reality.
Like a collective illusion.
Right. And breaking free from this escape room means shattering that illusion and experiencing reality in its fullness.
So it's about expanding our consciousness.
Exactly. Recognizing the interconnectedness of everything and maybe even tapping into those hidden dimensions we talked about with that holographic universe idea.
Yeah, that sounds pretty amazing. But how do we actually do that? I mean, if we're surrounded by these clues, the numbers, the symbols, the patterns, how do we even know where to start?
Well, that's where the real journey begins. The sources encourage us to become active participants in this cosmic game, to really observe our world with new eyes and to question everything.
So it's not about finding like a single answer, but about cultivating a mindset of curiosity and exploration.
Exactly. It's about noticing the synchronicities and patterns that show up in our lives, paying attention to our intuition, and just being open to new ways of seeing the world.
So we have to become like a mix of archaeologist, detective, and mystic all at the same time.
Huh. Perhaps.
Yeah.
The sources really emphasize that the journey itself is as important as the destination you know. That the process of searching and discovering is what leads to growth and transformation.
So it's not just about escaping this Earth-sized escape room, but about how we change along the way.
Yeah, that's a key takeaway for sure. The sources suggest that the escape room, it isn't really a physical place, but like a state of consciousness. And by embracing curiosity, questioning our assumptions, and seeking deeper meaning, we can start to unlock those doors to a more expansive and fulfilling reality.
This has been an incredible deep dive filled with like mind-bending concepts and so many thought-provoking questions.
And while we may not have all the answers, we've definitely gained a new perspective on the nature of reality and the potential for our own awakening, you know?
Totally. So to wrap things up, what would you say is the most important thing for our listeners to take away from all of this?
I think the key message is this. Don't be afraid to question, to explore, to look for those connections. The universe is filled with mysteries, and sometimes the greatest adventure is just the search itself.
I love that. This has been an incredible exploration, and it reminds us that there's always more to learn, more to discover, and more to experience.
Absolutely. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep diving deep.